Imagine a world where you can achieve the same results in school as those who study 10 hours a day, while only spending a fraction of the time. Picture the freedom of being able to spend your precious evenings and weekends open for your favorite activities, whether it's spending time with friends or simply lounging around doing nothing, knowing that you've already gotten everything done. This is a reality that you can achieve, but only if you understand the art of studying smarter, not harder. The truth is that most people in the modern day study like cows grazing on a field. They claim to be studying 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 25 hours a day, when in reality, they're just munching on patches of information without truly digesting any of it. So while the amount of time they spend on the desk may be longer, they're probably only using their brain around 20 to 30% of the time. We need to learn how to use our brain 100% of the time. Instead of working like a cow, learn to work like a lion. Train yourself to be able to focus intensely for shorter bursts of time, making every moment count so that you can do the most amount of studying in the shortest time possible. And by the end of this video, you'll learn exactly how to do that, as I go over how I study for just 2 hours a day while still getting straight A's and having plenty of time to enjoy other things. So first, how do you study smarter? Well, to answer that, we first have to understand the concept of productivity. Productivity can be defined as a product of the time spent studying and the quality of your studying. But in our scenario, the time spent remains constant at 2 hours a day, which means the only thing we have to worry about is the quality of our work. So what is quality of work? Well, we can divide it into two more components: the intensity of work, or your level of concentration, and the value of work, or the importance of what you're doing. If you can raise both the intensity and value of work to the maximum, you'll be able to achieve more in 2 hours than everyone else in an entire day. First, let's go over how to improve your work intensity. I'm guessing a lot of you don't know just how much more productive you can be in a day. Like, if you were to record yourself studying, you would probably watch the video in shock, as you realize just how distracted you are. When you're studying, you need to treat it as if you're on a treadmill. No matter what you're doing, you need to be in constant motion, and if you break out of this motion, it takes effort to restart. So make sure to keep your brain engaged at all times. The obvious first step in doing this is to get rid of all distractions when you're working. A pretty simple one, but highly effective if you want to stay focused. Just remove distractions like your phone, snacks, or any other unrelated objects around you on your desk. If you want to take it one step further, be sure to download a Chrome extension on whatever device you're using to block every website that could possibly distract you when studying. The next thing you need to do is pick a specific time to study and stick to it every day. My recommendation is to pick a time that is early, like 6 a.m. in the morning. The reason for this is that the earlier you study, the less people there are awake to distract you, and the faster you can get everything done before the rest of the world is even awake. Now, this final tip might be a bit of a letdown for some of you, but there's something that everyone needs to understand about how they should be studying, and that is, studying should take place in isolation, completely by yourself. If your goal is to study more in less time and make every minute count, you just cannot afford to have other people distract you. So while it is important that we're using our brain 100% of the time, we also have to make sure that we're using it on the right things. And that's where value of work comes into play. Whenever you're studying, you need to ask yourself, if the final exam was tomorrow and I only had 2 hours to study, what would I do? This question will force you to think about what's actually important and filter out everything else that doesn't matter. Because the truth is, most people are so caught up in writing the prettiest notes and making the perfect study system that they forget to do the actual learning itself. So how do you fix this? Well, it's simple. You need to make the switch from passive studying to active studying. Passive studying includes anything from watching videos, rereading notes, or highlighting text without actually engaging with the material. While these methods might feel productive, most of the time your brain is just tricking you into thinking you're learning, when in reality, you're probably not learning anything at all. So instead, you need to learn to embrace active studying. You can think of this as anything that forces your brain to think hard about the material, whether it's doing past paper questions or recalling material on flashcards. I like to use my level of discomfort as a good indicator of how active my work is, because it's likely that the more uncomfortable you are when studying, the more learning that is taking place. If you want to study 2 hours a day and be able to relax the rest of the day, you need to sacrifice your comfort during this period and just go all in. So make sure that when you're studying, everything you're doing is active. The best form of active studying is what's called active recall, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. But basically, it's just about recalling information from memory rather than simply rereading it. Flashcards are the best way to do this, and you can combine them with what's called spaced repetition to retain information over long periods of time. Doing practice questions also counts as active recall, so make sure to do a ton of those as well, especially if your exams are just a collection of past paper questions. What I personally do, and what I recommend for you guys, is doing flashcards for 1 hour before going to sleep, waking up early the next morning, and spending the remaining hour practicing past paper questions. This allows your brain to consolidate the information overnight and then apply what you learned the next morning. Apart from that, make sure that you maintain consistency with this strategy, as the key idea of this is to study as close to every day as possible. This means keeping track of your studying and ensuring that you don't go off track. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Pretty simple, right? Just increase the intensity of your work and the value of your work to maximize the quality of your work and therefore your productivity. I promise you that just by doing this, you can literally save days of your life. Because while everyone else is wasting time with passive work and cramming the important stuff to the last minute, you can get all the important stuff done with just a few 2-hour sessions. Remember, it's not about how much you can study, it's about how much you can learn in the least amount of time.